there really was no precedent about, well, you know what, I'm just going to fly this thing into a building or whatever, and that's it, and I don't care about my life, you know.
Right.
And so it kind of was a game changer in the whole thought on things, but the fact of the matter is there were still metal detectors then. You still had to walk through one. I remember as a child, there were metal detectors, and there was an X-ray machine that you had to put your baggage through and things like that. And really, what it all comes down to, and what I've noticed with government, is that when there's a lapse in security or when something falls through the cracks, their tendency is to cover their ass by simply more legislation, more rules, instead of enforcing the existing ones that are already there.
Right. Well, you know, our government will never let a good crisis go to waste, as they say. So they spring into action when something like 9/11 happened. I mean, I'm sure they they got great big excited whatever. So they responded immediately, took over, and nobody ever bothered to question whether the government was the right, was qualified to handle airline security, whether they were any more, capable of providing these security services than the private sector. And the reality is, look at what they've done. Look at how they've responded. They've created this massive bureaucracy, hired lots of able-bodied, functional people who could be producing something and actually, repairing our economy by making things that people need, but instead they're standing around in airports wasting, space and time, and then on top of that they're taking our tax dollars from the Recovery Act, and they're using that money to stimulate the economy by purchasing these machines and abusing us with them. And then when we go sue them, unfortunately, it's our money that they're going to use to defend themselves against the suit and all of this attention that the thing's getting. So they really have the whole thing locked down, and it's from within the system, it's going to be very difficult to beat them. But people still just have, like I said earlier, a right to choose what they're going to do. But that brings us back to the whole terrorist part of the argument that I was saying earlier, that these people truly are terrorizing us. And what I mean by that is, I've talked to so many people who will say, I agree with you and I hope you win. I do the same thing, but I need my job. I have a family to feed, et cetera, et cetera. Well, guess what? I've got 6 kids here, and I need my job too. And my job is flying the airplane. I don't need to fly for work. Flying is my work. But I'm telling you, there's no other way. If they're going to hold your job over your head, they're going to hold your ability to move around and have the convenience of air travel over your head and terrorize you with that, and terrorize you with the thought of losing it or being inconvenienced. And so the American people truly are living in fear of, I got to go to work. I got to fly to make a living. Man, that's manipulative and evil, frankly.
Yeah. John, you wanted to interject something?
Being an airplane pilot takes a little bit of mathematics and education, and not everybody can do it. I mean, they're not just hiring high school dropouts to fly the friendly skies. I mean, most of the people I would think that are airline pilots are ex-Air Force pilots and the alike. So therefore, you actually have to go through an extensive background check before you even sit behind the wheel of an airplane. Why would they be concerned about someone like you whose job it is to fly all around the country? Shouldn't you be exempt from that?
Well, honestly, it's like I said earlier, I don't think that they're worried about us. I think that I think it's part of the show. And the show is, frankly, I mean, with the screeners, what I've seen and heard stories about is almost a sense of satisfaction that they get. I think most pilots treat the TSA screeners respectfully, but I almost kind of get the impression that the screeners think that we are somehow their superiors or something, in the social strata, and they kind of get a thrill out of messing with us, out of making us take off our belts and putting their hands all over us and that kind of thing. And so there's almost just this mentality, not only among the individuals, but really among the actual agency of, we just want to make sure you understand your place. And actually, Janet Napolitano made the statement. I wish I had a reference for you, but I remember hearing it or reading it somewhere where she said, it's really just all about everybody understanding their role. Well, your role and my role is to shut up and obey. That's kind of the mentality. It doesn't matter if you're an airline pilot or if you're if you're just a regular passenger or whatever. That seems to be what's going on. Really, I mean, how else do you account for what they're doing? Go watch what's going on in the airports today. I know I sound a little bit crazy when I talk like that, but if you see it with your own eyes, you'll see what I'm talking about. It doesn't make any sense that they're doing this, and so you have to ask, well, if this is so absurd, what's the real motivation behind it? And if you can come up with something better than what I just said, let me know.
Well, like they were saying earlier, where there's a will, there's a way, and I'm sure those body scanners don't do an internal scan. And the mentality of a suicide bomber is it doesn't really matter how the job is done. It's the end result that matters in the end. So whether they're wearing the vest or they have the vest in them, i.e., it wouldn't be very difficult for a suicide bomber to pack their rear end or their colon with about 1.5 pounds of C4, get up to about 35,000 feet, go back to the bathroom, and kaboom.
That's right.
So to speak. That's where there's a will, there's a way. This is just another way for the government to impose tyranny on the people, and it's just basically, pardon the pun, a power grab.
No, true. Now that you mention that, maybe they'll start cavity searches next. Just for that reason.
Oh, I wish they would, and take it clear up to the armpit, baby.
Well, you know what? But that in and of itself, what John just said, Michael, it really strikes at the heart of what their intention and what their motive is, which is a power grab. I mean, it's straight out of 1984.
Sure is.
And that source that you were talking about, Janet Napolitano, came out of a USA Today article. She actually wrote. And it was in USA Today where she said that. And I'll be quite honest with you. You talk about biometrics. Like I saw today also that pilots in negotiation for biometric system. How do you feel about biometrics? I mean, what do you think about that?
Someone has argued, and I think they have a very good point, that, and obviously this isn't my intention, but in fighting this, it's almost like we're playing right into their hands because they're going to present the biometric option as the solution. Okay, we'll back off scanners, we'll back off of all of this stuff. Just give us a sample of your DNA, or let us scan your retina, and then you can be on your way, and we won't invade your personal privacy. Well, that's kind of freaky in itself.
Sure.
Why? First of all, let's back up about 10 different levels here and just go back to what you were saying about the folks in Orlando. How about we just get the government out of this business altogether? How about we put airline security in the hands of legitimate professionals who have, a vested interest in the quality of their work, and leave the government out of it? And then there's no reason to give the state, any of our biometric data. There's no reason to involve them in private commerce, which, or commerce among private entities, that are not part of the government. There's no reason that the government even be involved in any of this. There are professional security agencies out there that actually know what they're doing, and they do it based on science. They do it based on intelligence, best practices. But, the TSA, the Department of Homeland Security, those are political bureaucracies, and so they're driven by completely different motivations than private business. Keep your biometric data to yourself, people, and let's don't even go down that road. Let's don't even talk about that.
And that's how they get away with this, is compromise. And we've compromised ourselves into a corner now. And I'm glad glad that people are waking up. I'm finally starting to see the lethargy breaking a little bit with the American public. But at the same time, this is only, let's just say, a stepping stone. And I hope people see it as that, and that they wake up to see other things. And this is a good point, you know. These pilots need to say, no, look at biometrics. Are you kidding me? This is no solution. This is crazy, you know. It is. It's akin to rape. It really is. I mean, and you talk about. I got into an argument today at work, and I love kind of segueing to stories here. And Griff, you know how you are about stories. Well, I'm going to do this. And I heard the common argument. Well, flying's not a right. It's a privilege. Oh, man, I wanted to bash my head in with a claw hammer. I'm telling you, it was like, how many times have I heard that? What do you say to people who come at you with that statement?
Well, if flying is not a right, what is it? If it's a privilege granted by whom? Who owns the rights to it? If you say it's the state owns the rights to it, well, how did the state get those rights? It could only have gotten those rights because we gave the rights to them. We empowered the state. We, the people, gave the state the power to grant this privilege. Well, if we are the ones, if we're the agent that grants the power, then it is a natural right. It belongs to us. We own the rights to it.
And said we do. We have inherent human.
Say again?
Well, I was just, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but, you know, the Supreme Court has ruled. I think my wife, who goes by a username Divinity, actually commented on your site.
Oh yeah, I've seen her. Yeah.
Yeah. She commented and gave some Supreme Court precedent where the Supreme Court says it's our inherent right to travel. It is our right to travel.
Yeah, anybody can Google common carriage, equal rights for common carriers out there. In fact, I just posted something in one of the comments myself along those same lines, and the courts have ruled that, that you cannot coerce someone on the basis of their race, gender, whatever, or their status as and it lists like a number of different things, and one of them is a traveler utilizing a common carrier. And that goes all the way back to Jim Crow days when, if you discriminate, if you don't let somebody on the bus, you are affecting their ability to function in society. And so you cannot coerce them, you cannot intimidate them, or lord it over them, whether and make them jump through your hoop to get on the bus or to get on the Airbus, as it were. So that is an established legal precedent. It's out there in the books. It's also, like I said, just kind of a philosophical thing that, of course, flying is, or just the freedom of movement in general. Of course, it's a natural right for the simple fact that the government isn't endowed with that ability to grant this privilege to us by God. God didn't empower the government to tell people who can fly and who can't. We did. And if we are the agency that empowers the government, then it belongs to us. That right, that determination belongs to us. And so that whole argument is just ridiculous. It's a privilege, not a right. That's what your typical government yes man is going to say every time, and it's very small thinking.
No, it most certainly is. And we gotta take a break real quick. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Michael Roberts, and we'll take your phone calls, your questions and comments. You're listening to Freedomlink Radio on the Intel Hub News Network. Stay tuned.
Did you ever wish that you could have done something while you still had the chance? What will you do if your income ends tomorrow? Or if you lose your home, as many already have? Do you have enough money to survive through an economic depression? If you don't want to gamble with your future, then FreeToProsper.com can help you quickly end your debt problems, protect your property and possessions, and develop a personal strategy to get you through the hard times. Most importantly, you get to keep your money and not pay another cent to creditors. Our program is often superior to bankruptcy, consolidation, or settlement. Visit freetoprosper.com to find